Have you ever wondered what happens when a powerful empire rules the stars for 10,000 years, then meets one small species that refuses to bow? What happens when a single human ship stands in the path of a fleet that has never known defeat? Before the story begins, I have a small request. If you enjoy calm, powerful science fiction stories like this, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves space stories. One click from you gives me a real reason to keep writing more stories like this. The Galactic Empire did not conquer worlds with effort anymore. It simply arrived. That was enough. For more than 10,000 years, the Empire had spread across the stars like a shadow that never ended. Its silver fleets crossed black space in perfect formation. Its warships were larger than cities. Its weapons could burn oceans, crack moons, and turn proud civilizations into quiet provinces before their people even understood what had happened. To most species, the Empire looked eternal. It had no equal. It had no rival. It had no reason to fear anything. At the center of this empire was Dorn Prime, a jewel world covered in towers of crystal, golden skies, and rivers of blue fire. At the highest point of the imperial palace, Emperor Dorn sat on a throne carved from living crystal. The throne glowed beneath him, reacting to his heartbeat, as if even the stone knew who ruled the galaxy. Dorn was old, even by the standards of his species. He had seen 3 centuries pass. He had watched stars die. He had watched planets kneel. He had watched kings, councils, queens, war chiefs, and machine rulers fall silent before his banner. Nothing surprised him anymore. That bothered him. Victory had become boring. Every new campaign followed the same pattern. The Imperial scouts found a planet. The diplomats offered protection in exchange for obedience. If the local species refused, a warship fired one warning shot. Then the planet surrendered. Sometimes the species cried. Sometimes they prayed. Sometimes they tried to fight with weapons so weak that Imperial officers laughed while watching. Then the world joined the Empire. Order was restored. Resources were taken. Taxes were assigned. The Imperial map grew larger. Dorn should have felt proud, but he felt empty. On a quiet morning, while sunlight passed through the palace walls and painted the throne room in gold and blue, General Pike entered and knelt before him. Pike was broad, armored, and loyal. His face was marked by years of campaigns against species that had believed they were strong until they met Imperial power. Majesty, Pike said, keeping his head low, our scouts have located a new inhabited world near the edge of Sector 7. Dorn did not move. There are always new worlds, he said. This one is unusual, Majesty. That caught his attention. Dorn leaned forward slightly. His golden eyes narrowed. Speak. Pike raised a data tablet. A hologram appeared between them. It showed a blue planet with white clouds, green land, wide oceans, and one pale moon. The inhabitants call it Earth. Dorn studied the image. It is beautiful. Yes, Majesty. What are they? They call themselves humans. The word meant nothing to Dorn. What is their level of advancement? Pike changed the display. Small ships appeared around the planet. A few satellites. A station near the moon. A small colony on the 4th planet of the system. Mining operations among rocks beyond that. Basic space travel, Pike said. They have left their home world, but barely. They have a small settlement on a red planet they call Mars. They mine asteroids in limited numbers. Their ships are chemical, nuclear, and primitive fusion designs. No proper shield systems. No true fleet. No interstellar control. Dorn smiled for the first time that morning. Then this will be simple. Yes, Majesty. Have they met any other species? No confirmed contact. Dorn relaxed back into his throne. First contact is always useful. Primitive species are easier to shape before they learn pride from others. Pike bowed. Shall I send the occupation fleet? No, Dorn said. Send Ambassador Krell first. Let them hear our terms. Let them see our ships. They will understand. Pike knew what that meant. The Empire did not ask. It announced. 3 Imperial vessels entered the human system 1 week later. They came out of folded space beyond the orbit of Earth's moon. To human telescopes, they appeared at first as bright scars in darkness. Then the scars opened, and 3 massive silver ships emerged, each one longer than any human city, each one surrounded by a faint blue glow. On Earth, alarms rang in every capital. Military satellites turned toward the moon. Radio telescopes shifted. News channels broke into panic. For the first time in human history, humanity was not alone. And the visitors had arrived armed. In the emergency chamber beneath Geneva, leaders from every major nation gathered around a circular table. Some were present in person. Others appeared as secure holograms from distant capitals. The room was tense, silent, and cold. Defense Minister Taylor pointed at the main display. They are holding position beyond lunar orbit. No attack pattern yet. No signal beyond one repeated message. President Ward of the Earth Council looked tired. She had taken office during trade disputes, climate arguments, and colony funding debates. She had not expected to face alien warships. What does the message say? An officer played it. The voice that filled the chamber was calm, smooth, and strangely perfect. To the rulers of Earth. The Galactic Empire requests formal contact. Send 1 representative to receive the words of Emperor Dorn. No one spoke for several seconds. Then one minister whispered, receive the words. Not exchange greetings. Taylor nodded. That is what worries me. Another leader said, maybe it is a translation issue. Maybe, Taylor replied. But those ships are not exploration vessels. Look at the energy readings. Look at the hull density. They came ready for war. President Ward looked at the display. The alien ships were elegant, almost beautiful, but there was something terrible about them. Their calm position felt like a hand resting near a weapon. We cannot look weak, she said. But we cannot look hostile either. This is first contact. Every word matters. After hours of debate, one name was chosen. Captain James Jones. Jones was an officer of the Earth Defense Force. He was not the highest-ranking man available. He was not a politician. He was not a celebrity commander. He was chosen because he had something rare in times of fear. He stayed calm. Jones boarded the EDF Defender 6 hours later. It was the finest ship Earth had built. A sleek vessel with reinforced plating, advanced engines, and enough weapons to defend against pirates or rogue colony threats. Next to the Imperial ships, it looked like a child's toy. As the Defender approached the lead alien vessel, Jones stood on the bridge and watched the giant silver hull fill the forward screen. No one spoke. The Imperial ship opened a docking bay large enough to swallow the Defender whole. Captain, the pilot said quietly, are we really doing this? Jones adjusted his uniform. We are. The docking clamps caught the Defender with gentle precision. No shaking. No struggle. Just control. Jones stepped into the alien vessel alone. The hallway was too tall, too bright, and too silent. The walls glowed with soft blue light. The air smelled like metal, flowers, and rain on hot stone. 2 alien guards escorted him through corridors that seemed designed to remind visitors how small they were. Finally, they led him into a meeting chamber. Ambassador Krell entered moments later. He was tall, thin, and blue-skinned, with 4 arms folded elegantly across his chest. His eyes were black and glossy, like deep water under moonlight. He looked at Jones with polite interest, the way a scientist might look at an insect that had learned to write. Captain James Jones of Earth, Krell said in flawless English. I greet you on behalf of Emperor Dorn, eternal ruler of the Galactic Empire. Jones kept his face calm. I greet you on behalf of the people of Earth. We welcome peaceful contact with your empire. Krell smiled. It was not a warm smile. The Emperor is generous. Your species has been found at an early stage. This is fortunate for you. Earth will be given a place within the Empire before your mistakes become too costly. Jones blinked once. I am sorry. Did you say within the Empire? Yes. As allies? Krell's smile faded slightly. As subjects. The room became very still. Jones chose his next words carefully. Earth is interested in peaceful trade, cultural exchange, and mutual understanding. We are not interested in surrendering our sovereignty. Krell tilted his head. You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. Jones looked directly into those black eyes. Then what is it? An offer of mercy. Earth may join willingly and keep limited local governance, or Earth may resist and be conquered completely. Jones felt anger rise in his chest, but he did not let it reach his face. I do not have the authority to surrender my species. Then take the terms to those who do. I will deliver your message. But I can tell you now, humans do not value freedom as a decoration. We value it as life itself. Krell studied him. Your kind has no idea where it stands in the galaxy. Maybe not, Jones said. But we know where we stand on Earth. The ambassador's face hardened. Then perhaps you require education. Jones was escorted back to his ship without another word. 2 days passed. Earth debated, argued, prayed, prepared, and hoped. The Imperial ships waited near the moon. Then, without warning, one of them moved. Its course was not toward Earth. It moved toward Arrow Station. Arrow Station was a small research and mining outpost in the asteroid belt. 200 people lived there. Scientists, engineers, miners, cooks, mechanics, doctors, and families who had chosen hard work at the edge of human space. Dr. Elena Miller was studying mineral samples when the alarm sounded. The sound was sharp and ugly. She looked up from her console. What is happening? Station Director Base entered the lab, pale and breathless. Alien ship approaching. No response to our calls. Elena followed him to the command room. The main screen showed a silver shape growing larger against the stars. The communications officer spoke into the channel. Approaching vessel, this is Arrow Station. We are an unarmed research facility. Please identify yourself. Silence. Approaching vessel, repeat, this station is civilian and unarmed. We request communication. Still silence. Elena felt her hands go cold. The alien ship slowed. A bright point appeared beneath its hull. Director Base whispered, no. A beam of white-blue energy crossed space and touched Arrow Station. For 1 second, the station glowed. Then it came apart. Metal melted. Air flashed into space. Lights vanished. Voices ended. 200 human lives disappeared in a silent burst that people on Earth watched through delayed sensor feeds with horror. The Imperial ship turned around and returned to its position near the moon. As if nothing important had happened. In Geneva, the emergency chamber erupted. This is war, General Moore said, slamming his fist on the table. President Ward did not speak at first. She stared at the frozen image of Arrow Station's final moment. Defense Minister Taylor said, they killed civilians to scare us. Another leader said, and it worked. We cannot fight ships like that. Taylor turned on him. If we surrender now, every human child will grow up owned by them. The chamber fell quiet. Captain Jones stood near the wall. His jaw was tight. Ambassador Krell expected fear, Jones said. When I refused his terms, he seemed offended. Not angry at first. Offended. Like I had broken a natural law. President Ward looked at him. What does that tell us? It tells us they have done this many times. They expect surrender. They are used to obedience. General Moore nodded slowly. Then we cannot behave the way they expect. Ward stood. Contact every government. Every colony. Every research station. Every private shipyard. Every university. Every defense contractor. Every engineer with a workshop and every scientist with an idea. Taylor understood. You want full mobilization. No, Ward said. I want humanity. Within days, the Earth Defense Alliance was formed. Old enemies sat at the same table. Nations that had spent generations distrusting one another opened military archives. Private companies handed over propulsion research. Universities shared experimental energy studies. Mars sent engineers. Lunar Yard sent fabricators. Asteroid miners sent raw materials and crews. Humanity did not become peaceful overnight. But it became focused. Under the Pacific Ocean, inside a secret construction base that had once been designed for deep-sea mining, something new began to take shape. It was not elegant. It was not beautiful. It was human. The first human ship built for the new war had a black hull that swallowed light. Its shape was angular, uneven, and strange. Imperial ships were smooth because they trusted shields, control systems, and perfect formations. This human ship looked like it had been built by people who expected things to go wrong and planned to keep moving anyway. Admiral Sarah Blake stood beneath it on the day it was completed. She had gray hair, hard eyes, and the calm voice of someone who did not waste words. Chief Engineer Rao stood beside her, holding a tablet covered in warnings. She is ready, Rao said. As ready as a ship can be when half her systems are based on stolen sensor data, incomplete physics, and ideas that sane people rejected. Blake smiled faintly. So she is very human. Rao looked up at the ship. We named her Thunder of Terror, as requested. Good. Admiral, I need to say this. If the inertial system fails, the crew becomes paste. If the field coils overload, the ship folds itself in half. If the adaptive hull reacts badly to Imperial weapons, it may catch fire in vacuum, which should not be possible, but with this ship I refuse to rule anything out. Blake nodded. Can she reach Imperial space? Yes. Can she survive long enough to deliver a message? Rao took a breath. Maybe. Blake looked at the black ship. Then maybe is enough. The thunder of terror rose from the Pacific at midnight. No public announcement was made. No parade was held. No speech was given. Across Earth, families mourned the dead of Arrow Station. In hidden rooms, leaders watched the ship climb through clouds, break atmosphere, and vanish into the dark. For the first time, humanity was not waiting for the Empire to act. Humanity was going to answer. Commander Vex was bored when his sensors found the human ship. His vessel, the Unshaken Force, guarded a frontier outpost in Sector 84. It was not a glorious post. Nothing important had happened there for years. The Empire was too powerful for raiders, rebels, or foolish young species to threaten its borders. Then a dark shape appeared on long-range scan. Commander, said Sensor Officer Tully, unknown vessel approaching from the direction of the human system. Vex frowned. Impossible. The humans do not have interstellar ships. Nevertheless, sir, it is here. The display showed a small black ship. It was tiny compared to an Imperial cruiser, perhaps 1/10 the size. It had no smooth lines. No recognizable drive glow. No standard shield pattern. It looked wrong. Vex leaned forward. Scan it. Tully's three-fingered hands moved over the controls. Readings are strange. Hull material unknown. Propulsion system unknown. Energy output too high for its size. It is not matching any known design. Vex felt a faint unease, then pushed it away. Primitive species often built strange machines because they did not yet understand elegance. Open a channel. The screen changed. A human woman appeared. She wore a simple dark uniform with a silver star on each shoulder. Her hair was short. Her face showed age, discipline, and no fear at all. "This is Admiral Sarah Blake of the Earth Defense Alliance vessel Thunder of Terror. I request communication with Emperor Dorn regarding the unprovoked destruction of Arrow Station." For one moment, Vex stared. Then he laughed. "You request communication with the Emperor?" "Yes. Human, your planet has been claimed by the Galactic Empire. You have no right to make demands. Return to Earth. Prepare for occupation. Further resistance will be punished." Blake's expression did not change. "Your forces murdered 200 civilians. Your station was destroyed as a lesson. Then we are here to teach one in return." Vex's amusement vanished. "You have 1 minute to turn around." "Understood." The channel closed. Vex turned to his weapons officer. "Lock all weapons on that ship." "Locked. If it does not turn around, destroy it." The minute passed. Thunder of Terror did not turn. "Fire." 3 Imperial cruisers opened fire. Bright beams crossed space with perfect precision. The human ship should have vanished. It did not. It moved. Not like Imperial ships moved. Not in smooth curves or calculated evasive arcs. It jerked, slipped, twisted, and cut across space at angles that made no sense. It moved like a living thing trying not to die. The beams missed. Vex stood. "How?" "Sir, they are accelerating toward Cruiser 2. On the display, the tiny black ship rushed toward a massive Imperial cruiser. The cruiser fired again. The human ship avoided the beams again. It came too close for the cruiser's main weapons to track. Then, from the human hull, mechanical arms extended. They struck the Imperial cruiser at specific points. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the cruiser went dark. Weapons offline. Engines offline. Shield grid offline. Life support remained active. The ship drifted helplessly. The bridge of the unshaken force fell silent. Vex shouted, "All ships, concentrate fire." The remaining cruiser turned its guns. Thunder of Terror slipped away from the dead ship, crossed beneath the second cruiser, and struck again. Mechanical arms attached. Energy pulsed. The second cruiser died without exploding. Vex felt fear now. Real fear. The human ship turned toward him. "Destroy it," he ordered. The unshaken force fired every weapon it had. Thunder of Terror came through the storm. Its hull sparked. Plates tore away. Something on its side burned white. Still it came. The mechanical arms struck Vex's ship. The bridge shook. Lights dimmed. Control panels flashed red. Main weapons offline. Engines offline. Shield control gone. Communications limited. Vex gripped his command chair. A channel opened by itself. Admiral Blake appeared again. "Commander Vex, your ships are disabled, not destroyed. We could have killed everyone aboard, as you killed our people at Arrows. We chose restraint." Vex swallowed. "What do you want?" "Deliver this message to Emperor Dorn. Humanity will not surrender. We came in peace. We will still accept peace. But we will defend ourselves. You cannot win against the Empire." Blake looked at him for a long moment. "You should hope we never have to find out." The channel closed. Thunder of Terror turned and vanished into folded space before Imperial sensors could track the method. 12 hours later, power returned to the 3 Imperial cruisers. By then, the human ship was gone. Vex sent one message to Dorn Prime. It contained only 8 words before the attached battle data. "The humans are not what we believed. If this story is pulling you in, take a second and press like. Subscribe if you want more stories where humanity stands tall, and share this video with a friend who enjoys seeing the underdog become the storm. News of the frontier incident spread through the empire faster than any official wanted. At first, officials tried to bury it. A primitive ship had disabled 3 imperial cruisers. Not destroyed. Disabled. That detail made it worse. Destruction could be called luck. A lucky shot. A reactor accident. A foolish commander. But disabling 3 ships while keeping their crews alive required control. It required skill. It required understanding. In the High Council chamber on Dorn Prime, Ambassador Krell stood before angry voices. "You assured us they were primitive," shouted Counselor Dress. "You said one demonstration would break them." Krell kept his head lowered. "Their technology was primitive when I visited Earth." "Then how did they send a warship into Imperial space?" "I do not know." "That answer is unacceptable." Before the argument could grow louder, a calm voice spoke from the side of the chamber. "Perhaps the answer is not in what they had, but in what we caused them to become." Everyone turned. Intelligence Officer Reed stepped forward. He was smaller than most council members, quiet in manner, and not loved by military leaders because he preferred unpleasant facts over comfortable pride. Reed placed a data tablet into the projection field. Images appeared. Earth. Its oceans. Its mountains. Its wars. Its cities. Its ruined battlefields. Its rebuilding efforts. "I have studied human history since first contact," Reed said. "There is a pattern." Counselor Trell scoffed. "They are animals with tools." Reed ignored him. "Humans evolved under difficult conditions. They were not the strongest creatures on their world. They had no claws worth noting, no natural armor, no venom, no wings. Many predators were faster. Many were stronger." "Then why did they survive?" asked Dorn. The Emperor had entered silently. Everyone bowed. Reed continued only when Dorn gestured. "They adapted. They cooperated. They pursued. They learned to throw, plan, trap, and endure. They did not need to be stronger than a beast. They needed to keep coming after it until the beast became tired." The chamber was quiet now. Reed changed the display. Human history shifted through ages of conflict and invention. More important, their greatest technological leaps often occurred during danger. When humans fear extinction, they do not freeze. They accelerate. What other species develop over centuries, humans may attempt in years if the pressure is high enough. Trell laughed. "You are asking us to believe they matched Imperial technology in 6 months." "No," Reed said. "I am asking you to understand that they did not need to match us. They only needed to study how our ships work, then build something designed to attack our weaknesses." Dorn's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Our ships are standardized. Efficient. Elegant. Every cruiser uses similar power pathways, similar shield frequencies, similar command structures. That makes maintenance easy across thousands of worlds. And makes our weaknesses predictable," Dorn said softly. Reed bowed his head. "Yes, Majesty." The chamber stirred. Krell looked uneasy. Reed continued, "We assumed their lack of standardization meant immaturity. But humans come from a world of competing nations, competing sciences, competing military theories. Their disunity created variety. When we threatened them, that variety became a weapon." General Pike stepped forward. "One ship does not change the balance of power." "No," Reed agreed. "But it changes our assumptions." Dorn looked at the frozen image of Thunder of Terror. "Where is it now?" "Unknown." "How many more can they build?" "We do not know." That answer disturbed Dorn more than any threat. The Empire measured strength. Counted ships. Classified species. Assigned risk values. Filed everything into systems. Humans were becoming a blank space on the Imperial map. And blank spaces were dangerous. 3 weeks later, the Empire received another message from humanity. Not by transmission. By action. The Starlight Hub was one of the most important trade stations in Imperial space. It sat at the meeting point of 6 major travel routes. Every day, thousands of ships passed through its docking rings. Merchant vessels, passenger liners, fuel barges, diplomatic craft, military escorts, and luxury ships from wealthy core worlds moved through its traffic lanes. The hub was not just a station. It was a symbol. It proved that the Empire controlled movement itself. Governor Mars loved the view from his office. His window overlooked hundreds of docking arms stretching into space like silver petals. Ships came and went in ordered streams. Every movement was tracked. Every fee collected. Every cargo registered. The Empire's strength was not only war. It was control. On the morning everything changed, Mars was reviewing trade reports when his assistant entered without knocking. That alone was enough to anger him. What is it? Governor, 7 unknown ships have appeared at the edge of the system. Mars looked up. Unknown how? No registry. No transponder match. No approved arrival route. Pirates. The assistant swallowed. They look human. Mars stood so quickly his chair slid back. Show me. The display filled the office. 7 dark ships moved toward the hub. They were not identical. One was long and narrow. One was thick and armored. One had a ring structure around its center. Another looked almost broken, with uneven extensions and strange surface patterns. Yet they shared the same human ugliness. Angles. Black hulls. Unclear energy signatures. Design choices that seemed insane until one remembered what Thunder of Terror had done. Mars whispered, "How did they get here? The human system is far outside rapid response range. They should not have arrived so soon. Alert the defense fleet." Alarms sounded across Starlight Hub. 15 Imperial warships moved into formation. Defense platforms unfolded from the station's outer ring. Civilian vessels were ordered to hold position. Traffic froze. On the lead human ship, Admiral Elena Miller watched the Imperial response with calm attention. She had been a scientist at Aero Station before she transferred away 2 months before its destruction. Most of her friends had died there. She did not speak of revenge. She did not need to. Everyone on her bridge knew why she had volunteered. "Imperial fleet forming blockade," said her first officer. "Defense grid active." Miller nodded. As expected. Phase 2. Across the 7 human ships, small objects launched from hull ports. They spread into space like seeds, arranging themselves between the humans and the Imperial warships. The Imperial commander saw them and frowned. "What are those?" The objects activated. Lines of energy formed between them, not solid, not shield, not anything Imperial computers could classify. It looked like a web made of light. "Fire warning shots," ordered the Imperial commander. Imperial beams crossed space. They struck the web and vanished. Not reflected. Not scattered. Absorbed. The commander went still. Full fire. 15 warships fired together. The power was enough to erase a mountain range from a planet's surface. The energy web drank it. Inside Starlight Hub, Governor Mars watched in disbelief. The human ships continued forward untouched. "Activate station weapons," Mars said. "Governor, civilian ships are still close." "Activate them." The hub's defense cannons opened fire. This time, the human ships responded differently. They launched small dart-shaped devices. These devices flew into the path of the Imperial beams, caught the energy streams, and rode them backward toward their sources. When the darts reached the defense cannons, they detonated in silent pulses. One cannon went dark. Then another. Then 20 more. Within minutes, Starlight Hub's defense grid was blind, disabled, and alive. Not destroyed. Alive. That was the human signature now. They did not need to kill to prove they could. The 7 ships took positions around the hub. A communication request appeared on Governor Mars's desk. He accepted with shaking fingers. Admiral Miller appeared. Governor Mars. This is Admiral Elena Miller of the Earth Defense Alliance. Your station and its civilians will not be harmed if you cooperate. Mars forced his voice to remain strong. What do you want? Deliver a message to Emperor Dorn. You attacked an Imperial trade hub to send a message. We disabled military defenses after they fired on us. We have not damaged civilian infrastructure. Mars looked at the tactical display. She was right. What is the message? Humanity is willing to negotiate peace as equals. Earth will not become a subject world. We are not asking for your empire to fall. We are asking it to stop advancing toward us. Mars stared at her. You believe the Emperor will negotiate with a species that only just left its home system? Miller's face remained calm. Look around you, Governor. Your warships could not stop us. Your station weapons could not stop us. We could destroy this hub, but we have not. Does that sound like a primitive species begging for mercy? Mars had no answer. Miller continued, you have 1 standard month to deliver our offer and return a response. After that, silence will be treated as refusal. The channel closed. The 7 human ships formed up. Then they vanished. Not jumped away in the Imperial sense. Vanished. Imperial sensors screamed with contradictory readings. Fold disturbances appeared in 6 directions. False trails multiplied. Energy echoes bloomed and died. By the time the defense fleet recovered, no one knew which way the humans had gone. On Dorn Prime, Emperor Dorn stood before the High Council as the full report played. 7 human ships. 15 Imperial warships neutralized. Starlight Hub defenses disabled. No civilian deaths. No Imperial deaths. No demand for tribute. Only a demand for equality. The word tasted bitter in the council chamber. Equality was not how the Empire worked. Councillor Trell was pale now. His confidence from the last meeting had faded. This cannot continue, he said. If subject worlds hear of this, they may question Imperial strength. Dorn looked at Reed. You have been quiet. Reed stepped forward. Majesty, the humans are not fighting like a rising empire. They are fighting like a cornered species trying to prove that conquest will cost too much. General Pike frowned. They struck an economic hub. And harmed no civilians, Reed said. That was deliberate. They are shaping the story. They want every species watching to understand that they are dangerous, but not cruel. Dorn turned toward the window. Far below, the palace city glowed beneath him. What do they want? Security, Reed said. Recognition. Independence. They likely prefer peace. Trell said, then they are weak. Reed looked at him. No. A species that prefers peace but prepares for war is not weak. It is disciplined. The chamber did not like that. Dorn did not like it either. But he remembered the image of the human admiral's calm face. He remembered Vex's broken voice in the frontier report. He remembered how the human ships had appeared near Starlight Hub and left without fear. The Empire had spent 10,000 years teaching the galaxy that power meant obedience. Humans were teaching a different lesson. Power could mean restraint. And restraint, when chosen by the dangerous, was terrifying. Back on Earth, the victory at Starlight Hub was not celebrated in public. The Earth Defense Alliance knew better. They had won encounters, not a war. In a secure facility beneath the Andes, President Ward met with Admiral Blake, Admiral Miller, Defense Minister Taylor, and the leaders of the Human Scientific Command. A live tactical map of known Imperial space hovered above the table. It was incomplete. Most of it was red. Taylor said, "They have thousands of ships." Admiral Miller replied, "Yes." General Moore added, "We have 30 combat-capable vessels and another 40 under construction." President Ward folded her hands. "Can we survive if they send a full fleet?" No one answered quickly. Chief Engineer Rouse spoke at last. "We can hurt them. We can confuse them. We can break their command structure. But if they commit enough force and accept heavy losses, they can still reach Earth." The room grew silent. Admiral Blake looked at the map. "Then our goal is to make sure they do not accept the losses." Ward nodded. "That means diplomacy must continue." Taylor looked uneasy. "They may not respect diplomacy." "Then they must respect the alternative," Blake said. A younger scientist, Dr. Hannah Park, stepped forward. She had been leading the study of Imperial systems recovered from sensor data and captured fragments. "We have another advantage." Everyone looked at her. "The Empire does not innovate under pressure. Not quickly. Their systems are old, refined, and deeply connected. Changing one part affects 1,000 others. Their strength is stability, but stability makes them slow." "And us?" Ward asked. Park almost smiled. "We are unstable by nature." That earned a few tired laughs. Park continued, "Every human ship is different because every design team solved the same problem differently. The Empire cannot develop one countermeasure that works against all of them. Their doctrine expects standard fleets. We are giving them a storm of exceptions." Admiral Miller nodded. "Good. Keep making exceptions." Ward looked around the room. "We prepare for both paths. Peace if possible. Survival if not." No one disagreed. Near Jupiter, hidden beneath layers of sensor distortion, 30 human ships gathered. Thunder of Terror was at the center. She had changed. Her hull had been patched, rebuilt, expanded, and scarred. New modules clung to her frame. Some were elegant. Most were not. She looked less like a warship and more like a promise made by stubborn people. Admiral Blake stood on her bridge and watched the fleet form. A message came from Earth. It was President Ward. "Admiral, the Empire has agreed to receive an ambassador." Blake looked at the tactical display. "Who are we sending?" "Ambassador Maya Wilson." Blake nodded. Wilson had negotiated peace during the Mars water crisis. She had ended 3 colonial standoffs without firing a shot. She was patient, direct, and almost impossible to intimidate. Ward continued, "You will remain hidden unless she is threatened." "Understood." "Admiral, we need peace." Blake looked out at Jupiter's storms turning below. "I know. But not surrender." Blake's eyes hardened. That was never an option. The diplomatic ship that carried Ambassador Wilson was small, black, and quiet. It arrived above Dorn Prime without using any Imperial approach route. This caused panic. No unauthorized vessel had ever entered the capital defense perimeter. No foreign ship had ever crossed the palace airspace without months of inspection. The human ship did it in silence. Imperial defense stations locked weapons. Interceptor craft launched. Then the ship transmitted one message. "Ambassador Maya Wilson, representative of Earth, arriving for scheduled peace talks." In the palace, counselors shouted over one another. "Destroy it. Capture it. Demand apology. Cancel the meeting." Emperor Dorn stood by the window of his private chamber and watched the black ship descend through gold clouds. His chief advisor, Ven, stood behind him. "Majesty, many council members believe this meeting gives the humans too much honor." Dorn watched the ship land in the palace courtyard. "They disabled our cruisers. They humiliated Starlight Hub. They reached my palace. Honor is no longer the question." "What is the question?" Dorn turned. Whether we are wise enough to learn before pride destroys us. Ambassador Wilson stepped out alone. She was tall for a human, dark-skinned, and silver-haired. She wore a simple black suit with a small silver pin shaped like Earth and Mars orbiting the Sun. No medals. No weapons. No visible fear. 12 Imperial guards surrounded her. She looked at them once, then followed the protocol officer inside. Dorn did not receive her in the Grand Hall. That hall was designed for submission. Its ceiling rose so high that visitors felt crushed by scale. Its throne platform forced guests to look upward. Its floor showed maps of conquered worlds beneath transparent crystal, so every step reminded them of imperial dominance. Dorn chose a smaller chamber. Private. Still guarded, but not theatrical. Wilson entered and gave a respectful bow. Emperor Dorn. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Dorn studied her. You are calm. I have had practice. Do humans not fear standing before rulers of empires? Wilson met his gaze. We do. We just try not to let fear make decisions for us. Dorn almost appreciated that. Your ships have caused disorder in my territory. Your ship destroyed a civilian station in ours. It was a regrettable act. Regrettable is when a meal is cold. 200 people died. The guards shifted. Dorn's eyes sharpened. You speak boldly in my palace. I speak plainly because the situation deserves plain words. Dorn walked slowly around the chamber. Tell me, Ambassador Wilson. How did your species advance so quickly? Wilson glanced at the artifacts placed along the walls. Ancient imperial weapons. Models of early starships. Symbols of long-dead enemies absorbed into the empire. You think advancement is a road, she said. One step after another. Slow, steady, predictable. And you disagree? For humans, progress is often more like fire. It waits, then suddenly spreads when the right pressure appears. Poetic. Not an answer. Wilson smiled slightly. Your arrival scared us. The attack on Eros united us. You gave our best scientists, engineers, soldiers, rivals, dreamers, and desperate people one problem to solve together. How to defeat us. How to survive you. Dorn stopped near a display showing the evolution of imperial ships. Our vessels are the result of thousands of years of refinement. Yes. That is why they are so predictable. The room chilled. Dorn looked at her. Careful. Wilson did not step back. Your cruisers are powerful. But they are built around central systems. Your shields operate within known bands. Your command hierarchy is rigid. Your weapons are designed to overpower conventional defenses. We did not try to build stronger versions of your ships. We built ships that made your strengths less useful. Dorn thought of Thunder of Terror clinging to imperial hulls like a parasite and shutting down vessels without killing crews. Why disable instead of destroy? Because we are not trying to exterminate your people. But you could have killed them. Yes. That is meant to reassure me. It is meant to be honest. Dorn sat slowly. What do you offer? Peace. Trade. Scientific exchange. Borders. Recognition of Earth and all human colonies as independent. No imperial occupation. No tribute. No subject status. And in return, humanity will not attack imperial territory. We will share limited technology under treaty conditions. We will participate in anti-piracy operations. We will open cultural exchange. Dorn laughed once, quietly. You speak as if Earth is already equal to my empire. Wilson looked at him with steady eyes. No. Earth is not equal in size. Not in age. Not in resources. Not in territory. Then why should I treat you as equal? Because equality in diplomacy does not mean sameness. It means you cannot own us. For the first time, Dorn did not answer immediately. At that same hour, on a neutral station far from Dorn Prime, Intelligence Officer Reed met with Dr. Hannah Park and a small human technical team. The meeting had been approved as part of the peace process. Both sides were allowed to ask questions. Both sides were allowed to refuse answers. Reed stood before a hologram of a human warship. It was the most unsettling machine he had ever studied. "This design is inefficient," he said. Dr. Park smiled. "Very. Its power pathways are redundant. Triple redundant in most sections. 5-fold in command and life support. That is wasteful. Only until something explodes." Reed looked at her. "Imperial ships are designed to avoid damage. Human ships are designed to take damage and continue." "Why?" Park pointed at the hologram. Sections changed color. "Because humans know systems fail. People make mistakes. Enemies get lucky. Metal cracks. Fire spreads. Computers lie. Commanders die. A ship that only works when everything is perfect is not a warship to us. It is a ceremony." Reed considered that. "Our central command cores allow perfect coordination. They also give us one thing to hit. Our standardized designs allow repair across the Empire. They also let us learn one pattern and apply it everywhere." Reed could not deny it. Park continued, "You built for control. We built for survival." "That reflects your biology," Reed said. "Yes. We come from a harsh planet. Storms, disease, predators, hunger, gravity, cold, heat. We are not graceful creatures by galactic standards. But we are hard to stop." Reed looked at her hands. Small. Soft-looking. No claws. It was difficult to connect this creature with the ships that had frightened the Council. "What is your greatest weapon?" he asked. Park looked amused. "That depends who you ask. I am asking you." She thought for a moment. "Iteration." "Explain." "We try. We fail. We change. We try again. We do not need the first answer to be perfect. We need the 10th answer to work before we die." Reed recorded the words. Iteration. It sounded simple. It sounded dangerous. Back on Dorn Prime, the meeting between Dorn and Wilson grew sharper. The Emperor stood again. "You must understand my position. If I treat Earth as equal after your attacks, subject worlds may believe defiance brings reward." Wilson nodded. "Then tell them the truth." "Which is?" "That Earth did not attack for conquest. Earth responded to imperial aggression. Earth offered peace before and after each military action. Earth killed no civilians. Earth demanded no tribute. Earth asked only to remain free." Dorn's mouth tightened. "Truth does not always preserve order." "No," Wilson said. "But lies do not preserve it forever either." Before Dorn could answer, alarms sounded through the palace. The guards raised their weapons. Then rushed into the chamber. "Majesty, 30 human warships have appeared near the main Imperial shipyard in Sector 5. Dorn turned to Wilson. "So this meeting was a distraction." Wilson's face changed for the first time. She looked surprised. "No. That was not authorized as part of our diplomatic plan." Then listened to a message in his earpiece. "They are not firing. They are outside weapon range. Admiral Blake requests confirmation that Ambassador Wilson remains safe." Dorn stared at Wilson. She sighed. "That sounds like Blake. You expect me to believe this is not a threat?" Wilson looked him in the eye. "It is a reminder." "Of what?" "That peace talks work best when both sides return home alive." Dorn's guards bristled. Wilson continued, "You can call it a threat if you want. Or you can call it proof of everything I have said. Humans can be valuable friends or difficult enemies. We prefer the first. We prepare for the second. Dorn walked to the window. Far above the planet, hidden from naked sight, human ships waited near the shipyard that built the Empire's greatest fleets. No one had done such a thing before. No one had dared. No one had been able. Dorn felt anger. Then curiosity. Then, beneath both, something he had not felt in many years. Respect. He turned back to Wilson. If I agree to formal negotiations, will your ships withdraw? Yes. If I refuse? Then they will still not fire first. But they will remain. Yes. Dorn almost smiled. You humans are rude diplomats. Wilson's expression softened. We learned from your ambassador. For a moment, the Emperor of 10,000 years laughed. It was brief, but real. Then he said, tell Admiral Blake to hold position. We will continue. The talks lasted 8 hours. No treaty was signed that day. But something more important happened. The Emperor did not order an attack. Across Imperial space, however, not everyone welcomed restraint. Counselor Trell met secretly with military hardliners, provincial governors, and industrial commanders who feared that peace with humanity would weaken their status. To them, the Empire was not merely a government. It was a ladder, and conquest was how ambitious people climbed. If Dorn negotiates, Trell said, the old order begins to rot. General Kor, commander of the 3rd Expansion Fleet, agreed. The humans are few. Their tricks work against small formations. Against overwhelming force, they will break. Can we act without the Emperor? Kor's eyes hardened. We can create facts he must accept. The plan formed quickly. 500 Imperial warships would gather near the jump point to the human system. Officially, they were conducting readiness drills. In reality, they would strike Earth before human ship production grew further. Trell believed victory would restore Imperial pride. Kor believed humans had been lucky. Both were wrong. Reed discovered fragments of the plan through intelligence channels. He brought them to Dorn at once. The Emperor listened in silence. When Reed finished, Dorn looked older. Can we stop them? Yes, Majesty, if you publicly order them to stand down. And if they refuse? Then we face internal fracture. Dorn understood. An emperor who could not command his fleets was no emperor. A war against humans might become a war inside the Empire. Send a private order to Grand Admiral Vex, Dorn said. Reed hesitated. Vex? He has faced the humans. He knows enough to be afraid. Fear may make him wiser than pride. Vex had indeed changed. Since his defeat, he had studied humanity obsessively. He watched recordings of Thunder of Terror's attack until he could see each mistake his fleet had made. He read Reed's reports. He studied human history. He learned that humans had fought wars where weaker forces bled stronger ones through patience, terrain, deception, and will. When he received Dorn's private order, Vex understood the danger. He also understood opportunity. If Kor attacked Earth and won, hardliners would gain power. If Kor attacked and lost, the Empire would be humiliated. If Vex stopped him, the Emperor might regain control. Vex took command of a loyal fleet and moved to intercept. But Kor jumped early. 500 Imperial warships entered the human system between Earth and Mars. Their formation was perfect. Their weapons were charged. Their target was Earth. On Luna command, alarms screamed. President Ward was pulled from a council session. Admiral Blake was already on the line from Thunder of Terror. Ward looked at the tactical display and went pale. How many? 500, Blake said. Can we stop them? Blake's answer was calm. Yes. Ward stared at her. You are sure? No. But yes is the only useful answer. Human defense plans activated. Civilian ships fled to shelters behind the Moon and Mars. Ground defense systems powered up. Orbital platforms unfolded. Hidden drones woke from silence among debris fields. Mines disguised as old satellites adjusted their positions. Sensor ghosts filled the inner system. The Imperial fleet advanced. General Kor stood on the bridge of the Dominion Spear, smiling. "Where is their famous fleet?" His tactical officer replied, 32 human warships detected near the Moon. Smaller contacts throughout the system. Likely drones. Kor waved a hand. "Ignore tricks. Advance in full formation. We crush the ships, then demand surrender." The Imperial wall moved forward. 32 human ships moved to meet it. To Imperial eyes, the human formation looked insane. Ships were scattered in loose clusters. Some accelerated ahead. Some fell back. Some moved above and below the battle plane. Others vanished behind sensor distortion. Kor laughed. "They do not even know how to form a proper battle line." His weapons officer said, "Range in 3 minutes. Prepare full volley." Across the human fleet, Admiral Blake watched the Imperial formation. "They came packed tight," said her first officer. Blake nodded. "Pride loves symmetry. All units report ready. Begin the lesson." The first Imperial volley filled space with fire. Human ships did not try to block it all. They moved unpredictably, using bursts of acceleration that made Imperial targeting systems recalculate too slowly. Some beams struck human hulls. Armor burned away. Compartments sealed. Secondary systems took over. The ships kept moving. Then the drones activated. Thousands of small human machines, hidden among dust, rock, and old orbital junk, ignited at once. They did not rush the Imperial fleet. They created false ships, false heat signatures, false communication bursts, and false gravity ripples. The Imperial tactical display became a storm. "Targets multiplying," said Kor's sensor officer. "Filter them." Trying. Human ships slipped through the confusion. They did not attack the front line. They attacked command vessels, relay ships, sensor platforms, and formation control nodes. Thunder of Terror led the strike. She was hit 17 times in the first 5 minutes. She did not stop. Kor finally saw the danger. "They are not trying to destroy us. They are cutting our nerves." He ordered the fleet to spread out. Too late. Human disruption devices attached to Imperial hulls. Energy webs formed around groups of ships. Beam riders disabled weapons. Signal worms entered communication arrays. Mechanical arms punched through shield bubbles by making direct contact with armor. Imperial ships went dark. Not all at once. One by one. Then groups. Then whole sections. Kor's perfect formation became a crowded field of drifting giants. Still, the Empire had numbers. 100 ships broke through the disruption zone and advanced toward Earth. Orbital platforms opened fire. Lunar mass drivers launched tungsten spears. Mars sent long-range missiles on silent arcs. Civilian mining lasers, never designed for war, focused through lens arrays built in secret. Earth itself joined the battle. From mountain bases, ocean platforms, desert silos, and orbital rings, humanity fired everything it had built, borrowed, modified, or invented during the longest year in its history. The Imperial advance slowed. Then came Vex. His loyal fleet exited folded space behind Kor's force. For one terrifying moment, human command thought a second attack wave had arrived. Then Vex transmitted on open channel. "All Imperial ships, this is Grand Admiral Vex acting under direct authority of Emperor Dorn. Stand down immediately. General Kor has launched an unlawful assault during active peace negotiations." Kor shouted, "Traitor." Vex replied, "No. I learned." Kor ordered his rear ships to engage Vex. That was the final collapse. Imperial ships, already confused by human disruption, now received conflicting orders. Some followed Core. Some followed Vex. Some hesitated. Humans exploited hesitation with ruthless precision. Thunder of terror reached the Dominion spear. Core watched the black ship approach through fire. "Destroy it," he screamed. His weapons could not track fast enough. Mechanical arms struck his hull. His bridge went dark. A single channel opened. Admiral Blake appeared. "General Core. Your attack is over." Core's face twisted with rage. "You think this makes you powerful?" "No," Blake said. "It makes us alive. You cannot hold against the Empire forever." Blake leaned closer to the screen. "Then tell your Empire to stop coming." The battle ended after 43 minutes. The human system was scarred. Orbital stations burned. Several defense platforms were gone. 6 human warships were destroyed. Thousands were dead. But Earth remained free. 312 Imperial vessels were disabled or captured. 49 were destroyed, most by accidents, crossfire, or reactor failures after refusing surrender. The rest stood down under Vex command. General Core was arrested by Imperial loyalists. Counselor Trell tried to deny involvement. Reed had already collected the evidence. Take a breath with me for a second. If you want more stories where humanity wins through courage, intelligence, and stubborn hope, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so another sci-fi fan can find it too. When the battle report reached Dorn Prime, the Empire changed. Not publicly at first. Publicly, the palace announced that an unauthorized faction had violated Imperial orders and that Emperor Dorn had restored lawful command. Privately, the truth was heavier. 500 ships had entered the human system. They had not conquered Earth. They had not even reached orbit. For 10,000 years, the Empire's greatest weapon had not been its fleet. It had been certainty. Every species believed resistance was useless. After Earth, certainty cracked. Subject worlds began asking quiet questions. If humans could refuse, why not others? If the Empire could negotiate, why had it demanded obedience for so long? If Imperial ships could be stopped, what else was possible? Dorn understood the danger. He could respond with terror. Public executions. Punitive campaigns. Increased control. That was the old Imperial answer. It had worked for thousands of years. But humans had revealed the weakness of old answers. They worked until they did not. Dorn summoned Reed, Vex, Ambassador Krell, and the remaining High Council. The chamber was tense. Krell looked diminished. Trell's seat was empty, sealed by investigation order. General Pike stood silent, no longer certain of anything. Dorn entered without ceremony. "I have ruled as my ancestors ruled," he said. "I believed conquest created order. I believed power gave us the right to decide the future of lesser species." No one moved. "Then we found Earth." Krell lowered his eyes. Dorn continued, "We called them primitive. We killed their civilians. We expected fear. Instead, they learned us." The words landed heavily. They studied our ships. Our doctrine. Our arrogance. They did not defeat us because they were stronger in numbers. They defeated us because they adapted faster than we believed possible. General Pike said, "Majesty, the Empire still has enough strength to destroy Earth if we commit fully." Dorn looked at him. "At what cost?" Pike did not answer. Dorn turned to the Council. "And after Earth? How many worlds would rise? How many fleets would we need to hold what fear no longer holds for us? An empire that must burn half the galaxy to rule the other half is already dying." Reed watched silently. Dorn said, "We will negotiate." A counselor gasped. "As equals," another whispered. Dorn's eyes flashed. as survivors. The second round of negotiations took place not on Dorn Prime or Earth, but aboard a neutral station near the border between Imperial and human space. The station had once been a quiet refueling point. Now it became the most watched location in the galaxy. Imperial ships arrived first. Then human ships. Then observers from 50 species, some loyal, some afraid, some hopeful, some barely able to believe they had been invited. Ambassador Wilson led the human delegation. Emperor Dorn came in person. That alone stunned the galaxy. Rulers of subject worlds watched the broadcast in secret. Merchants paused in trade halls. Workers gathered around hidden screens. Soldiers aboard Imperial cruisers listened from duty stations. The first meeting was private. Dorn and Wilson sat across from each other at a plain table. No throne. No raised platform. No flags larger than the other. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Dorn said, "Your people killed many of mine." Wilson answered, "Your people came to our home to conquer it." Yes. That single word surprised her. Dorn continued, "I will not pretend innocence. The Empire began this." Wilson studied him. "That matters. It does not return your dead." "No. It does not return mine." "No." They sat with that truth. Peace is not made by pretending pain did not happen. Peace is made when pain is not allowed to become the only future. Dorn placed a data crystal on the table. Evidence against Counselor Trell and General Kor. They acted against my order during negotiations. They will face Imperial judgment. Wilson did not touch the crystal. Will judgment mean execution? Likely. Humanity will not demand their deaths. Dorn tilted his head. Why? Because dead men teach less than disgraced ones. Let your people see what pride cost them. Dorn considered this. You think like Reed. Reed thinks clearly. He admires your species. Does that bother you? Less than it did. The treaty talks lasted weeks. Every sentence was argued. Borders. Trade. Military movement. Prisoners. Reparations for Aero Station. Return of captured Imperial crews. Recognition of Mars, Luna, and outer colonies as human territories. Restrictions on Imperial fleets entering the Sol system. Rules for human ships traveling through Imperial space. Scientific exchange. Cultural missions. An independent council for disputes. Nothing was easy. Some human leaders wanted harsher terms. They had watched Earth burn under Imperial attack. They wanted guarantees written in steel. Some Imperial leaders wanted softer language. They could not accept words that made Earth sound equal. Wilson held the line. Dorn held his. Slowly, the impossible became ink. During the talks, something unexpected happened outside the meeting rooms. Humans and Imperial citizens began speaking. At first, it was formal. Engineers comparing docking systems. Doctors discussing treatment of wounded prisoners. Translators fixing errors. Security officers arguing over safe zones. Then curiosity grew. Imperial technicians asked why human ships had so many manual controls. Human pilots asked why Imperial food was always blue. A human medic taught an Imperial nurse how to make coffee and warned her that the first taste would feel like being punched by a tiny star. An Imperial historian showed a human officer a map of the first Empire routes, drawn before humanity had invented agriculture. A group of young Imperial cadets gathered around a human drone operator who explained how decoy swarms had confused their fleet. One cadet asked, "Were you not afraid?" The human laughed. "We were terrified." "Then how did you continue?" The human thought about it. Everyone was terrified. That made it feel fair. Stories spread. Not official stories. Real ones. Imperial crews began to understand that humans were not monsters from the edge of space. Humans began to understand that not every Imperial citizen was cruel. Many had been born into a system so old they had never imagined another way to live. That did not erase what had happened. But it made the future less impossible. One day, Reed visited the human memorial chamber aboard the station. It had been built for those who died at Arrow Station and during the defense of Earth. The room was simple. Names glowed on a dark wall. No statues. No speeches. Just names. Reed stood before them for a long time. Ambassador Wilson entered quietly. "You do not have to be here," she said. "Yes," Reed replied. "I do." She stood beside him. "Did you know any of the dead?" "No." "Then why come?" Reed looked at the names. "Because my empire turned them into numbers. 200 civilians. 6 ships. Thousands lost. Numbers are easy to move in reports. Names are heavier." Wilson's expression softened. "That is why we use them." Reed read one name aloud, carefully, with respect. "Elena Bass." "Station Director," Wilson said. He stayed at his post trying to send a warning. Reed read another. "Samir Okafor. Mining Engineer. 3 children." Another. "Lena Cho. Student Intern. First month in space." Reed closed his eyes. "I am sorry." Wilson did not say it was all right. It was not. She said, "Then help us make sure the list does not grow." When the final treaty draft was ready, Emperor Dorn asked for one last private meeting with President Ward. Ward had traveled from Earth despite security concerns. She wanted the galaxy to see a human leader sign, not only a diplomat. They met in a quiet observation room overlooking the neutral station's docking ring. Through the glass, human and Imperial ships floated side by side. Dorn said, "Your world is smaller than I expected." Ward smiled faintly. "People often say that before they have to deal with us." Dorn accepted the humor. "I have wondered something. Why did you not surrender after Eros? Many species would have. It would have saved lives." Ward looked out at the ships. "Maybe. For a while. For generations, perhaps. Generations living under someone else's hand. Is survival not worth that?" Ward turned to him. "Survival without choice is not peace. It is a longer kind of death." Dorn was quiet. Ward continued, "Humans argue about everything. Borders, laws, money, history, food, music, where to build roads, how to raise children. We are difficult even to ourselves. But when someone arrives and says we no longer get to decide what we are, something ancient wakes up in us. Defiance. Yes. But not only defiance. Responsibility. To whom? To the dead. To the unborn. To every person who will one day ask what we did when the sky filled with ships." Dorn looked at her for a long time. "I ruled believing history belonged to those strong enough to command it." Ward said, "History belongs to those who survive long enough to tell the truth." The signing ceremony took place 1 year after the destruction of Arrow Station. That date was chosen by humanity. Dorn accepted it. The main hall of the neutral station was filled with representatives from across known space. 50 species stood under one ceiling. Some wore robes. Some wore armor. Some floated in climate bubbles. Some communicated through light, scent, gesture, or machine voice. At the center stood Emperor Dorn and President Ward. The treaty was called the Galactic Cooperation Accord. The name had been argued for 3 days. The Empire wanted imperial border settlement. Humans refused. Humans wanted equal sovereignty treaty. The Empire refused. Reed suggested Galactic Cooperation Accord. Wilson said it sounded boring enough to be acceptable. So it stayed. Dorn spoke first. For 10,000 years, the Empire believed order could only be created through control. We believed peace meant obedience. We believed young civilizations should be guided by force if necessary. He paused. Humanity proved that belief incomplete. The hall stirred. Strength is not only the power to conquer. Strength is the ability to change before change destroys you. Today, the Empire recognizes Earth, Mars, Luna, and all human settlements as independent members of the galactic community. Some Imperial officials looked like they had swallowed poison. Many subject species watched in stunned silence. President Ward stepped forward. Humanity did not seek war. We wanted first contact to be a moment of wonder. Instead, it began with threat and loss. Her voice remained steady. But we are here because the future does not have to remain trapped inside the first mistake. We honor our dead by protecting the living. We accept peace, not as surrender, but as a choice made by those strong enough to keep fighting and wise enough to stop. Then Dorn and Ward placed their hands on the treaty interface. Light moved through the chamber. The accord was sealed. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Empire recognized another power as independent and equal under treaty law. Across the galaxy, people reacted in different ways. Some celebrated. Some feared. Some doubted anything would really change. But change had already begun. Imperial fleets withdrew from the human border. Human prisoners and Imperial prisoners were exchanged. Aero Station's destruction was formally acknowledged as an unlawful act of aggression. The Empire paid reparations, not as charity, but as responsibility. A memorial beacon was placed where Eros had once drifted. Human and Imperial ships stood together during the ceremony. Admiral Miller attended. She said nothing during the broadcast. She simply placed one hand on the memorial wall and closed her eyes. On Earth, the treaty was met with relief and suspicion. Some people said peace had come too soon. Some said it had almost come too late. Some wanted revenge. Some wanted trade. Some wanted to visit alien worlds. Some wanted every human ship armed forever. President Ward addressed them from the steps of the rebuilt Earth Defense Assembly. The treaty does not ask us to forget. It asks us to build without forgetting. We will remain ready. We will remain free. But we will not let fear become our only language. Behind her, the flags of Earth's nations moved in the wind beside the blue banner of the Earth Defense Alliance. For the first time, they did not look temporary. They looked like a promise. Another smooth reminder before we go further. If you are still listening, that means the story is doing its job. Please like this video, subscribe for more deep space HFY stories, and share it with someone who needs a strong human victory today. 2 years after the Accord, the first human embassy opened on Dorn Prime. It did not look like Imperial buildings. Imperial buildings reached upward in smooth curves and shining towers. The human embassy was lower, wider, and built with stone, glass, steel, wood, and living gardens. Its design confused local architects. Why so many materials? One asked. The human architect replied, because we come from many places. The embassy became popular almost immediately. Not because of politics. Because of food. Humans brought bread, coffee, tea, fruit, chocolate, grilled vegetables, noodles, soups, spices, and 1,000 things Imperial citizens had never tasted. Imperial cuisine had been refined over centuries into balanced nutrient art. It was beautiful. It was precise. It was also, according to many humans, deeply boring. The first time an Imperial clerk tasted human street food, he cried. Not from emotion. From chili. Then he asked for more. Cultural exchange moved faster than policy. Human music spread across trade networks. Imperial listeners found it strange that humans enjoyed songs about heartbreak, rebellion, rain, dancing, death, love, loneliness, and vehicles that no longer existed. Human sports shocked the Empire. You willingly collide with each other for entertainment? Reed asked during a visit to Earth. Ambassador Wilson said, only in some sports. That does not reassure me. Human children loved Imperial Gravity Gardens. Imperial children loved human dogs. Dogs caused several minor diplomatic incidents by licking officials, stealing ceremonial food, and becoming more popular than ambassadors. One imperial prince requested a golden retriever as a state gift. Earth sent two, with a 40-page care manual and a warning that they would eat furniture if neglected. The prince later declared them the finest diplomats humanity had produced. Trade followed culture. Human engineers wanted imperial materials. Imperial shipyards wanted human redundancy systems. Human medical teams learned from ancient imperial biotechnology. Imperial emergency services adopted human disaster response methods, especially the human habit of training for failure before failure arrived. That concept spread widely. Training for failure. It sounded pessimistic to many imperial administrators. Then it saved a colony during a reactor crisis. Then another during a flood. Then a mining world during a pressure collapse. Human methods were messy, loud, and full of backup plans. They lacked elegance, but elegance mattered less when people were alive. Reed became the first imperial director of the Joint Adaptation Institute, founded by humans and imperial reformers. Its motto was proposed by Dr. Park. Perfect systems break perfectly. The imperial board hated it. The students loved it. At the institute, young engineers from dozens of species studied both imperial and human design philosophies. One lecture became famous. Dr. Park stood beside an imperial professor named Laren. Between them floated two ship models. One was a classic imperial cruiser, smooth and silver. The other was Thunder of Terror, black, ugly, and scarred. Professor Laren said, the imperial cruiser represents peak efficiency. Every system supports every other system. Power loss is minimized. Command response is instant. Dr. Park nodded. Beautiful ship. Then she pointed at Thunder of Terror. This thing is a nightmare. Students laughed. It wastes power. Its parts do not agree with each other. It carries tools no sane designer would combine. Half the maintenance crew hates it. But if you punch a hole through one side, the other side keeps fighting. If you blind it, it listens. If you cut its engines, it drifts with purpose. If you kill the computer, someone can still pull a lever. Laren said, that is not advanced design. Park smiled. No. It is survivor design. A student raised a tentacle. Which ship is better? Park and Laren looked at each other. Laren answered first. That depends on whether the battle goes according to plan. Park added, and battles rarely ask permission. The quote spread. Battles rarely ask permission. It appeared on engineering shirts, pilot mugs, and eventually on the wall of a human Imperial Joint Training Academy. Not all changes were light. Some worlds under Imperial control began demanding more rights after the Human Treaty. Dorn faced pressure from every direction. Conservatives accused him of weakening the Empire. Reformers accused him of moving too slowly. Subject leaders wanted representation. Military leaders wanted clear doctrine. Merchants wanted stable trade. Humanity did not interfere directly, but its existence changed the conversation. The Empire could no longer say equality was impossible. Earth was proof. 3 years after the Accord, Dorn announced the formation of the Galactic Council. At first, it was advisory. Every member species could send a representative. Imperial governors hated it. Smaller worlds embraced it. Humans pushed quietly for rules, procedures, voting rights, and public records. The Empire pushed back. Negotiations were exhausting. Wilson once told Reed, your people turn every meeting into a monument. Reed replied, your people turn every monument into an argument. That may be our finest skill. The Council's first major test came with the Carthy crisis. The Carthi were a subject species from a desert world rich in rare minerals. For centuries, imperial companies had controlled their mines. After the Human Treaty, Carthi workers organized strikes and demanded local ownership. Imperial hardliners wanted military suppression. Human representatives warned against it. Dorn sent Reed to mediate, with Wilson as observer. The mining city of Hara was tense when they arrived. Workers filled the streets. Imperial security stood behind barriers. One wrong move could start a massacre. Reed met the Carthi leader, Sava, in a small community hall. Sava was thin, sharp-eyed, and furious. For 300 years, your empire took from us. Reed bowed. Yes. That answer surprised her. You admit it? I cannot solve a wound by denying the blade. Wilson watched quietly. The talks lasted 5 days. Humans helped design a transition plan. Imperial companies kept partial contracts for 10 years. Carthi councils gained majority control. Worker safety rules were rewritten. Imperial troops withdrew from the city. No one got everything. No one died. The Carthi crisis became the first success of the new council. Dorn sent Reed a message after. Perhaps adaptation is less humiliating than expected. Reed showed it to Wilson. She smiled. That is practically poetry for him. Meanwhile, human shipyards continued building. That unsettled many imperial observers. If peace is real, one senator asked during a council debate, why does humanity keep expanding its defense fleet? Admiral Blake, now older and even less patient, answered from the human delegation seat. Because peace is not a spell. It does not protect itself. Do you expect betrayal? I expect history. That answer silenced the chamber. The human fleet changed too. Early ships were pure survival machines, ugly and harsh. Newer ships blended human and imperial ideas. They kept redundancy and modular design, but added better energy control, improved life support, and safer fold systems. Imperial ships changed as well. Slowly. Very slowly. The first Imperial cruiser with decentralized command systems was mocked by traditional officers as a human-infected machine. Then it survived a pirate ambush that destroyed 2 older cruisers. Mockery faded. Admiral Vex became one of the strongest supporters of reform. This shocked people who remembered his first defeat. At a military academy, a cadet asked him, "Sir, what was it like to face thunder of terror?" Vex stood silent for a moment. Humbling. The cadets waited. He continued, I had spent my career believing victory belonged to the side with superior ships, superior numbers, and superior doctrine. Then a small human vessel made all 3 irrelevant. It did not beat me because it was stronger. It beat me because I had become predictable. A cadet asked, what lesson should we take from that? Vex's eyes hardened. Never make your enemies plan for them. That became required reading. 5 years after first contact, a human child was born on Dorn Prime. Her name was Lena Ward Okafor, named after President Ward and one of the engineers lost at Eros. Her parents worked at the human embassy. Her birth was not politically important by law, but symbolically it mattered. She was the first human born under an alien sky inside the former heart of the Empire. Dorn sent a gift. A small crystal star that glowed when touched. The message attached was simple. May she inherit a galaxy wiser than the one we made. President Ward read the message from Earth and sat quietly for a long time. Then she said, maybe there is hope for him after all. Hope did not erase danger. There were still hardliners. Still pirates. Still governors who missed old powers. Still human groups that believed the Empire could never be trusted. Still imperial citizens who believed humans were reckless animals given too much respect. The galaxy did not become kind overnight. But it became less certain. And certainty had been the Empire's cage. Let me gently pause the story again. If you are enjoying this journey from fear to resistance to respect, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. It helps this story travel farther than any starship. 7 years after first contact, the unknown enemy arrived. At first, they were mistaken for a sensor error. A colony world on the far rim sent a broken message about dark objects moving between stars without fold signatures. Then the colony went silent. 3 days later, 2 patrol ships vanished. A week later, an Imperial border station transmitted 12 seconds of video. The footage showed black organic shapes, vast and silent, surrounding the station. Their surfaces moved like liquid armor. They did not answer communication. They did not fire beams. They released clouds of metallic dust that ate through hulls, shields, and living tissue. Then the station died. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. Reed presented the evidence. We do not know their name. We do not know their origin. They do not use known communication bands. They consume infrastructure and biological matter. 3 worlds have gone silent. Fear moved through the chamber. An Imperial admiral said, "The Empire can handle border threats." Admiral Blake, attending as human military representative, said, "This is not a border threat." The admiral looked offended. "You know little of our borders." Blake pointed at the footage. "That is not raiding. That is feeding." Dorn, older now, joined by remote from Dorn Prime. "What do humans recommend?" Blake answered without hesitation. "Evacuation corridors. Quarantine zones. Joint Fleet Command. Full data sharing. No political filtering." Several Imperial officials objected at once. Dorn silenced them. "Do it." The unknown enemy was named the Devourer Swarm by human media. The name stuck. The swarm advanced through rim systems with terrifying speed. Imperial weapons destroyed individual vessels, but the swarm adapted within days. Beam weapons became less effective. Shield frequencies were consumed. Standard formations became traps when dust clouds spread through clustered ships. For the first time, the Empire faced an enemy that did not care about fear. It could not be intimidated. It could not be offered terms. It could not be absorbed. It only moved forward. Human commanders studied the footage and recognized something familiar. An enemy that learned. An enemy that adapted. An enemy that punished repetition. At Joint Fleet Command, human and Imperial officers worked side by side under pressure that reminded older humans of the first year after Eros. Dr. Park, now older and more famous than she liked, led the technical response. "The swarm adapts to energy signatures," she told the Council. "So we stopped giving it consistent signatures." An Imperial engineer frowned. "That is impossible for fleet operations." Park smiled without humor. "It is inconvenient. Not impossible." Human ships began rotating weapon types mid-battle. Missiles, kinetic strikes, heat blooms, false radiation bursts, magnetic traps, chemical payloads, gravity shear devices, and old-fashioned nuclear mines were combined in chaotic sequences. Imperial officers hated the disorder. The swarm hated it more. At the Battle of Varn Gate, the Joint Fleet faced a massive swarm cluster moving toward 3 populated worlds. Admiral Vex commanded the Imperial line. Admiral Blake commanded the human strike groups. For the first time in history, Imperial cruisers opened formation deliberately, creating gaps for human ships to move through. Vex watched Thunder of Terror, ancient now by human standards, patched and rebuilt again, take position near his flagship. He opened a channel. "Admiral Blake. Grand Admiral Vex. It appears we are allies. It appears so. I hope your ship is still as unpleasant as I remember." Blake smiled. "More." The swarm arrived like a moving eclipse. Space darkened. The first wave of metallic dust hit the outer defense drones and ate them alive. Imperial ships fired. Human ships scattered. Swarm vessels shifted, absorbing and adjusting. Then the human plan began. Every ship changed behavior at different intervals. Some fired kinetic rounds with no energy signature. Some released decoy heat bodies. Some broadcast false command signals. Some went completely dark and drifted like debris. Imperial cruisers, guided by human tactical models, varied shield frequencies randomly instead of holding stable patterns. The swarm slowed. For the first time, it hesitated. Blake saw it. There. It is trying to classify us. Vex replied, then let us be difficult. The joint fleet struck. Not in one grand volley, but in 1,000 different cuts. Every attack was slightly different. Every defense shifted. Every pattern broke before the swarm could use it. The battle lasted 19 hours. 3 Imperial cruisers were lost. 4 human ships were destroyed. But the swarm cluster broke. The surviving organic vessels fled into deep space. The galaxy saw the footage. Imperial order and human chaos, together, had done what neither could do alone. After the battle, Vex visited Thunder of Terror. The ship was scarred almost beyond recognition. Its corridors were narrow, noisy, and full of exposed conduits. Crew members moved around damage as if the ship being half broken was normal. Vex ducked under a hanging cable. How does anyone serve aboard this thing? A human mechanic passing by said, with love and fear. Vex was not sure if it was a joke. Blake met him in the command bay. Welcome aboard. Vex looked around. This vessel should not still function. We tell her that every year. Does she listen? No. Vex touched a scarred bulkhead. She changed the Empire. Blake's expression softened. So did you. I was defeated. And then you learned. That is rarer than victory. Vex considered that. Humans have a strange way of honoring failure. Blake nodded. Failure is expensive. We try to get something useful out of it. The war against the swarm lasted 2 more years. It forced the Galactic Council to become more than symbolic. Species shared intelligence. Former subject worlds sent ships. Human shipyards produced modular defense systems for planets that had once feared them. Imperial logistics moved refugees by the millions. Old enemies worked together because the alternative was extinction. The final battle occurred near a dead star called Namur. The swarm core had gathered there, a moon-sized mass of organic machinery surrounded by thousands of vessels. The joint fleet could not destroy it through normal attack. It adapted too quickly. Dr. Park proposed the solution. It learns from patterns, she said. So we give it a pattern too large and contradictory to learn before it dies. Reed asked, meaning? Park brought up a simulation. Every member species attacks in its own way. No standardization. No central rhythm. No unified weapon profile. We coordinate objectives, not methods. An Imperial admiral looked horrified. That is chaos. Park said, yes. Reed smiled slightly. Weaponized diversity. The plan was approved because nothing else had worked. At Namur, the galaxy attacked as itself. Imperial beams carved through space. Human kinetic swarms punched holes through armor. Carthi mining lasers sliced limbs from swarm carriers. Aquatic species launched pressure torpedoes designed for deep ocean moons. Insectoid fleets deployed living boarding spores. Machine intelligences fired logic viruses through captured swarm signals. Gas giant species used magnetic storms contained in field bottles. No 2 attacks matched. No rhythm stayed long enough to copy. The swarm core tried to adapt. It failed. Thunder of Terror, serving as the command disruption vessel, carried the final payload. Not the largest bomb. Not the strongest weapon. A signal device built from human, Imperial, Carthi, machine, and 7 other technologies. It latched onto the swarm core and forced every contradictory signal into its learning network at once. The swarm did what it always did. It tried to understand. For one fatal moment, it stopped defending. The joint fleet fired. The dead star lit up. When the light faded, the swarm core was gone. The galaxy survived. This is a good moment to show some love to the story. If the courage of humanity and the unity of the galaxy kept you watching, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who enjoys powerful space adventures. After the Swarm War, no one could pretend the galaxy was the same. The Empire still existed, but it was no longer the unquestioned center of all things. The Galactic Council gained real authority because it had earned it in war. Species that had once been silent now had names, votes, fleets, and confidence. Dorn changed too. He was still proud. Still imperial. Still difficult. But he listened more. That alone was enough to shock older officials. At the 10th anniversary of First Contact, a ceremony was held at the Eros Memorial Beacon. Ships from across the galaxy gathered in silence. The beacon stood where the old station had died. It was a tall structure of dark metal and crystal, built jointly by human and imperial engineers. It transmitted the names of the dead in every major language of the council. President Ward attended, older now, her hair fully gray. Emperor Dorn attended in person. So did Reed, Vex, Wilson, Blake, Miller, Park, and thousands of others. For many, it was the first time they had visited the place where the new era truly began. Dorn requested permission to speak. Ward granted it. The Emperor stood before the memorial wall. For once, he wore no crown. 10 years ago, an Imperial ship destroyed this station, Dorn said. At the time, my empire called it a lesson. We believed fear would create obedience. We believed obedience would create peace. He turned toward the names. We were wrong. No one interrupted. These lives were not a small cost. They were not a message. They were people. Their deaths became the fire in which humanity forged its answer. Not only weapons. Not only ships. Resolve. He faced the gathered fleets. The Empire learned from humanity that power without humility becomes blindness. The galaxy learned that even old systems can change when brave people refuse to accept what has always been. President Ward stepped beside him. Humanity also learned. We learned that not every enemy remains an enemy. We learned that peace requires strength, but strength needs memory. We learned that the stars are not made safer by one species ruling all others. She looked at the memorial. We came into the galaxy through grief. But we stayed through courage. After the ceremony, Dorn and Ward walked together along the observation deck. Below them, the beacon shone against the dark. Dorn said, "Do your people still hate us?" "Some do." I expected a diplomatic answer. That was one. Dorn gave a quiet laugh. Ward continued, "Some hate you. Some fear you. Some admire what you are becoming. Most are busy living, which is probably healthiest. And you?" Ward looked at him. "I remember what you were. I respect what you chose to become." Dorn accepted that. It may be the kindest judgment I deserve. Nearby, a group of school children from different worlds toured the memorial. A human girl stood with an Imperial boy, a Carthy child, and a small floating creature in a water sphere. The Imperial boy pointed at Thunder of Terror, docked in the distance as part of the ceremony. "Is that really the ship that stopped the first cruisers?" The human girl nodded proudly. "My grandfather served on her. It looks broken. My grandfather says she always looked broken." The Carthy child asked, "How did it beat bigger ships?" The human girl thought about it. "Because bigger is not the same as ready." The Imperial boy looked at the ship with wonder. "I want to visit Earth someday." The human girl smiled. "You should. But bring a jacket. Weather changes for no reason." The floating child bubbled through its translator. Humans say that about many things. On Dorn Prime, the old Imperial War Museum opened a new wing. At first, many objected to including human vessels among Imperial history. But Dorn insisted. The exhibit was called The End of Certainty. Visitors entered through a hall showing the Empire at its height. Maps of conquered systems. Models of great fleets. Recordings of surrender ceremonies. Then they reached a small dark room. In the center floated a model of Thunder of Terror. A plaque beneath it read, "This vessel disabled 3 Imperial cruisers without destroying them." Its action began the strategic reassessment that led to the Galactic Cooperation Accord. Students loved the exhibit. Older officers hated it. One day, Vex visited in plain uniform. He found a young cadet staring at the model. "Ugly ship," the cadet said. Vex stood beside her. "Yes. Is it true you were there?" "Yes." "Were you afraid?" Vex looked at the model for a long time. "Not at first. That was my mistake." The cadet glanced at him. "What did you learn?" Vex answered, "Respect should arrive before fear. It is cheaper." The cadet repeated the words softly, as if saving them. Years passed. Humanity spread, but not like the Empire had. Human colonies appeared on empty worlds, dead moons, orbital habitats, and shared stations. Human traders became famous for arriving with strange goods, stranger music, and repair tools for problems no one had expected them to understand. Human engineers became prized on older stations because they always asked uncomfortable questions. What happens if this fails? Imperial engineers often replied, "It will not." Human engineers always said, "Great. But what happens if it does?" That question saved lives again and again. Human diplomats became known for direct speech. Human soldiers became known for refusing to abandon civilians. Human scientists became known for treating impossible deadlines as personal insults. Human cooks became known for terrifying spice levels. Human artists became known for making beauty out of pain. The phrase human-made took on 2 meanings in galactic markets. The first meant durable, adaptable, reparable, and slightly inelegant. The second meant emotionally confusing. Both were accurate. The Empire, now slowly transforming into a federation in all but name, remained powerful. Dorn did not dismantle it overnight. No system that old could be changed by decree alone. But each year, more worlds gained local representation. More laws required consent. More fleets answered to joint command rather than imperial conquest orders. Some called Dorn weak. Others called him wise. Dorn ignored both when possible. Reed once asked him, "Do you regret meeting humanity?" Dorn looked out over the palace city. "Every morning." Reed waited. Dorn continued, "And every evening, I am grateful." Reed smiled. "That sounds human." Dorn looked offended. Then he realized Reed was right. At the 15th anniversary of the Accord, Ambassador Wilson retired. Her farewell ceremony was held in the Galactic Council chamber. Representatives from 72 species attended. Wilson gave a short speech because she disliked long ones. "When I first stood before Emperor Dorn, I knew 2 things. First, humanity was in danger. Second, the Empire was not as certain as it looked." Dorn, seated nearby, raised an eyebrow. Wilson continued, "Everything since then has proved that survival is not the same as refusing to change. Survival is change. The galaxy is still unfair, still wounded, still full of people who want power more than peace. But it is also more alive than it was. That is enough work for one lifetime." After the ceremony, Dorn approached her. "You once called humans rude diplomats." Wilson smiled. "You called us that. I thought it was implied." "Fair." Dorn handed her a small crystal object. It was a model of the first meeting chamber where they had spoken. Wilson looked at it. Sentimental, majesty. Historical. Of course. Dorn said, "You were the first person in centuries to tell me no without begging afterward. I am sure many wanted to. Wanting is common. Doing is rare." Wilson held the crystal carefully. "Take care of the council." Dorn sighed. "It argues constantly. That means it is alive." "I feared you would say that." Across the chamber, Reed watched them and thought about how strange history was. A destroyed station. A black ship. An arrogant empire. A stubborn species. A war that almost happened. A peace that should have been impossible. A greater war that proved the peace necessary. None of it had been clean. None of it had been easy. But history rarely moved because people were ready. It moved because someone refused to let fear write the ending. Before the final part, here is one more simple request. If this story gave you even one strong image in your mind, please like the video, subscribe for more original HFY stories, and share it with a friend who believes humans shine brightest when the odds are impossible. 20 years after first contact, Thunder of Terror made her last flight. By then, she was obsolete. Her systems had been replaced so many times that engineers joked the original ship was only a legal concept. Her hull carried scars from the frontier encounter, the defense of Earth, the Swarm War, and a dozen missions no one had fully declassified. She was no longer the strongest human ship. She was no longer the fastest. She was not even safe by modern standards. But she was loved. The decision was made to retire her to the Eros Memorial Museum. Admiral Blake, now elderly, insisted on commanding the final journey. Doctors objected. Engineers objected. The ship herself, through a long list of maintenance alarms, seemed to object too. Blake ignored all of them. On the day of departure, crowds gathered on Earth, Mars, Luna, Dorn Prime, Carthy, and dozens of stations to watch the broadcast. Thunder of Terror rose from lunar orbit, escorted by human frigates, Imperial cruisers, Carthy defense ships, and council vessels from across known space. Grand Admiral Vex, retired but still formidable, joined Blake aboard Thunder's bridge. He walked slower now. So did she. "Your ship remains unpleasant," Vex said. Blake smiled. "She missed you too." The bridge crew laughed. Vex looked at the command chair. "May I ask something?" "Go ahead." "On the day you disabled my ship, were you certain you would survive?" "No." "Were you certain you would win?" "No." "Then why continue?" Blake looked at the forward screen. Stars stretched ahead. "Because someone had to be first." Vex nodded slowly. "That answer has haunted the Empire for 20 years. Good." Thunder of Terror reached the Eros Memorial Beacon after 3 days. Ships formed a ring around the site. The old warship moved to the center under her own power. Her engines flickered once, steadied, then dimmed. Blake opened a channel to every watching vessel. This ship was built in fear, anger, grief, and hope. She was not built because humans wanted war. She was built because humans were told they had no choice but to kneel. Her voice was older, but still firm. She carried our answer. Not the only answer. Not always the best answer. But the first one the Empire heard clearly. The camera shifted to the memorial beacon. "To the people of Eros, we remember. To the crews who fought, we remember. To the enemies who became allies, we remember. To every world watching, remember this too. No empire is eternal. No defeat is final. No species is small when it stands together." She placed her hand on the console. "Thunder of Terror, final command. Stand down." The ship's lights dimmed slowly. Across the galaxy, people watched in silence. Then the old vessel transmitted one final automatic message, recorded decades earlier by Chief Engineer Rao. "If this message plays, the ship has somehow survived long enough to retire, which means several impossible things happened and someone owes my engineering team an apology. Laughter broke through tears across the fleet. Even Dorn laughed. Thunder of Terror became a museum ship. Children walked through her narrow corridors and asked how people had lived inside something so cramped and loud. Veterans touched the walls quietly. Engineers studied her systems with equal admiration and horror. Imperial visitors stood longest near the mechanical arms that had once disabled their cruisers. A plaque near the bridge read, "She was not built to conquer. She was built to refuse." That phrase became famous. It appeared in classrooms, speeches, songs, and memorials. Years later, when new civilizations reached the stars and feared the powers waiting there, human teachers told them the story. They told them about the empire that ruled galaxies effortlessly. They told them about Earth, small and blue, almost unknown. They told them about Aero Station and the 200 lives that became a turning point. They told them about the first human ship that crossed into Imperial space, not because victory was certain, but because surrender was not acceptable. They told them about Admiral Blake facing Commander Vex. They told them about Ambassador Wilson standing before Emperor Dorn. They told them about Reed, who looked past arrogance and saw danger clearly. They told them about enemies who learned to become allies. Most of all, they told them the lesson humanity had carved into galactic history. Power is not proven by how many worlds you can force to kneel. Power is proven by what you do when someone refuses. And courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is a small ship moving forward while every weapon in the dark turns toward it. On a quiet day many decades after first contact, an Imperial child visited Earth with her school. Her name was Sarah. She stood on a hill overlooking the ocean. Wind moved through her silver hair. The sky above Earth was blue, deeper and softer than she had imagined. Beside her stood Lena Ward Okafor, now an old woman and a historian. She had been the first human born on Dorn Prime. She had spent her life teaching both humans and Imperial citizens how closely their histories had become tied. Sarah looked at the ocean. "This is the world that frightened the Empire?" Lena smiled. "Yes. It looks peaceful. It can be. And dangerous? Also yes." Sarah thought about that. "My teacher says humans changed the galaxy because they were stubborn." Lena laughed. "That is one way to say it. What would you say?" Lena looked at the sky, where faint points of light marked orbital stations, ships, and the roads humanity had built into forever. "I would say humans changed the galaxy because when the universe told us to accept our place, we asked who had the right to decide it." Sarah frowned in concentration. "That sounds like a human question." "It is." Above them, a ship crossed the sky. Not black and ugly like Thunder of Terror. Not silver and perfect like the old Imperial cruisers. It was something new. A joint vessel, built by many species, carrying students, scientists, diplomats, and explorers beyond the old borders of known space. Its name was Eros Dawn. Sarah watched until it vanished. "Do you think we will find other empires out there?" Lena nodded. "Probably. Will they be friendly?" "Some. And the others?" Lena's eyes held the memory of old stories. "Then we will meet them together." Far away, in the museum at the Eros beacon, Thunder of Terror rested in silence. Her engines were cold. Her weapons were empty. Her mechanical arms were locked. But people still came. They came because she reminded them that history can turn on one choice. One refusal. One ship. One crew willing to move forward when fear says stop. The Empire had dominated galaxies effortlessly. Until humanity appeared. Until a human station died. Until a human world united. Until a human ship entered the dark and stopped the advance. And after that, the galaxy never again looked at a small blue world and thought small meant weak. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If you enjoyed this journey, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves stories where humanity refuses to fall. Your support helps this channel grow and helps me bring you more powerful stories from the stars.